And we are live. This is
From New
Fantastic
York.
Fiction at KGB.
From
I'm
New York,
Jack
LA,
Kressel, and this is Ellen. I co-host a series with Ellen Datlow, and tonight's guests are Priya Sharma and Justin C. Key. We always start a little bit early just to kind of have a relaxed feel with the show. We're not going to start the readings until about 7:05 p.m. Eastern time, maybe 7:10 or so. So relax. Pull up a chair, get a
Hey,
drink,
hello,
start us
everyone.
off, and thanks for joining us. So, Justin and Priya, how are you both doing tonight? Or, well, you guys are in very different time zones. So, Justin, you're in LA, and Priya, you're in. Are you in London, or where are you?
No, I'm near Liverpool. I'm in the
Liverpool.
northwest of England. Yeah.
All right. So it's
nearly midnight here.
Oh wow.
yeah. And then Justin, it's what almost 4
Oh,
o'clock?
Yeah.
4
All right.
Mm.
So
Well,
what's everybody drinking?
Well, I'm almost finished. I may get more of my bison grass vodka.
You're mixing chemicals there?
A little chemical.
Right.
Yes.
I probably shouldn't say this on the air, but in college we made a pipe out of what do they call it? A graduated pipette.
Yeah.
Like I had a friend, he just turned it on the side. He's like, if you put a screen on it, you can make a pipe out of it. Oh yeah. He's like, and you can measure exactly how much you inhale.
Hi, Amy. Amy's here. Hi, David.
Here we go. Amy
Hi,
and
Amy.
David.
And David.
Hello guys. Well, thanks for joining us. Your stout looked good, Matt. How did you know I was drinking a stout? I didn't say that on the air, did I?
Hi,
So
Diana.
for those
Hi.
It looks amazing. He's going to get me a bottle of that. It looks really good.
it's called Technophobia.
Hot chocolate. Oh.
It's actually there's no chocolate in it. It's
Who
imperial.
would have getting hot chocolate? They're drinking.
Oh. It's imperial stout aged in rum, vanilla, and rye whiskey barrels.
You mentioned it on Facebook, Matt. That's where Amy said she saw it.
Oh, right, of course. Yes, before the reading, I posted a picture with banana and cinnamon. It's 13%. It's very good. I got to pace myself. But yeah. So
Bourbon. I may or may not have chugged some coffee earlier, but right now sipping on bourbon. I have like some water if I need it off screen.
I have water on screen right here. When I finish with my vodka. I may get more vodka. I may not. I'm not sure. It might put me to sleep because I've been not sleeping as well as I'd like.
Allison says, "Sign me up for some hot chocolate, but hold the alcohol."
But Alison, are you going to have like whipped cream on it and the whole shebang?
Right, with little marshmallows, right?
Yeah.
Amy's drinking mead.
Nice.
Fancy.
Where did you get the mead, Amy? There's like a little bit of a delay between when we actually speak and when they hear us speak because we're doing a live stream. But so if we there's a delay in the response, it's that's why.
Justin, do you see Diana has your bookshelves?
Yeah, I was just about to actually had a meeting with her I think recently, and I noticed that as well. I was like, they look
I have new background in my new apartment. Cartons.
This is your first live KGB from your new place.
Yes, it is. Although I have no deck, I've only put one piece of art up in the bathroom. Something that I realized should go there. Other than that, I'm not prepared to do that because things are moving anyway. In this living room, things are going to be moving around. So I have to figure out where I'm going to put art. And I moved my dodo. Originally, I had my dodo up there, but I moved it.
So you dodo?
I have a bronze dodo.
Oh,
And
right. Okay.
It's now on my side-by-side over there. Yes, I have a bronze dodo commissioned by me from a young sculptor. Well, she was young then. She's not young now. Clee Richardson, who made the Shrike for Dan Simmons.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So and by the way, I don't know if you can hear it, but there's a yapping dog next door. a little yappy
I
dog
hear a little bit.
that I have not seen, but I hear every once in a while.
Oh man, does it keep you up at night?
No, it's not that bad. I ignore it mostly.
All right.
But it just yaps.
Yes, I did hear it that time. Yeah.
It's like, shut up, yappy dog.
Oh, Amy, yeah, the more marshmallows, the better. Yeah, I'm with you
Yeah.
there.
Honeys delivers to Brooklyn and Queens. What? Mead? I'm not sure. What is mead? It's got honey in it and stuff.
It's honey wine. It's fermented honey, right?
Is it? Is that what it is?
I think so.
I guess so. It's an affiliated bar, Honeys.
Yeah.
I look forward to like the blend of live and streaming. Like this is live and streaming, in person and streaming.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. We'll see if we can do that.
Yeah. So I got to see. I have like an old phone that I'm hoping to just like once we go back in the bar, just stick it, on a little tripod and film the readers. But then I can't do all these fancy titles and.
Not the jerk anymore. Jack doesn't come by anymore. He sits on my lap. There's no couch for him to sit next to me and walk on me. He will sit on my lap occasionally, though.
Yeah.
And be very good.
So the cats are getting comfortable in the new place?
They're climbing on my stove. They go on my stove. I'm in the pot, and I'm thinking, this is a really bad habit. I don't want you climbing on my stove across the lights, across the.
Well, just turn the stove on, and then they'll get a nasty burn, and they won't do it anymore. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that.
No, it's like it just makes me really anxious. I don't want you on my stove, stupid cats.
Yeah.
How many cats do you have?
2. Sophie the lovely, Sophie the little delicate creature who eats like a bird, and Jack the jerk, who is a big boy and can be really pushy.
He's a good cat, but he likes to bite and scratch.
He doesn't scratch; he just bites occasionally, and he's been biting much less.
Okay. It's 7:00 on the dot Eastern time. If you're just joining us, this is Fantastic Fiction at KGB. I'm Matthew Kressel. I co-host the series with Ellen Datlow. Normally, it's at the KGB Bar in Manhattan, but because of coronavirus and the New York City shutdown, we've been doing it online for 9 months. This is crazy. I remember when we first started.
Yeah. There has been no house tour except for behind me. That's it.
Right.
I'm on a desktop, so unless I pick up the desktop, we're not going to get it. And besides, it's many boxes. I still have like 25 boxes back.
Tonight's guests are Priya Sharma and Justin C. Key. We're going to start the readings in a little while, probably about 10 minutes, or maybe a little bit earlier. Just waiting for people to come into the bar, so to speak. So yeah, just a reminder that Fantastic Fiction at KGB is a monthly reading series hosted by Ellen and myself. We have a mailing list. Check it out, kgbfantasticfiction.org. Go to that link and click on mailing list, and you can join our list. And we only send out like 2 or 3 emails a month just to remind you of the upcoming reading. So please do check that out. Also, just a reminder, I'll mention this later when we do the official intro, but the KGB Bar is this awesome bar in the East Village of Manhattan, and it hosts before the coronavirus shutdown, there was like a literary event almost every night.
Joyce Carol Oates was on one last night. She mentioned it on Twitter. I don't know who she was with. She did a reading
at the bar.
Yeah, well, virtually, yeah.
Virtual bar, okay.
Yeah, at KGB.
Yeah, but it's a great bar, and actually, let me see if I can put it in the background. Yeah, so this photo here is actually from the bar. It's like this. It's behind the bar. A Soviet-themed bar, and anyway, so if you can support them, they've been every business in all over the country and the world has been suffering because of this. So if you can afford to give them a couple bucks, the price of a drink, we'd really appreciate that. Keep them going. The link is also in the YouTube description. And then the other thing too is that the series itself, the KGB Fantastic Fiction series, we also it costs us a little bit each month to run. we give the authors a little stipend. Right now we're paying for, we actually give a fair amount to the bar itself every month. We were, when we were in person, taking the authors out to dinner afterwards, and
We owe you.
we tip the bartenders. Yeah, we're gonna pay you guys. So basically, if you donate to us, the money just goes to the series. It's like 100% goes into the series. So if
Is
something,
Nightfire sponsoring us?
not this month. So we are working with tour.com and Nightfire. I can't really say too much about it, but yeah, in terms of sponsorship.
Right. Oh, and by the way, Allison was asking if we can meet the kiddies. That's up to them. Sophie probably not, but you never know. Jack might make an appearance.
Hi, Chris. Hi, Gay.
Hi, Chris.
So yeah, people are joining in. But yeah, we're one of the things that I guess you could say is good about this situation is that we're now able to have people who may not normally have been able to come to New York City, right? So Priya in England and Justin in LA, and we've had other authors, Benjamin Rosenbaum in Switzerland, although he was supposed to come to New York, but we're trying to
William Gibson, we had Gibson on last night.
Yeah, William Gibson. We're trying to get authors that
we wouldn't get ordinarily
have, which is, I think it's great. I mean, I think it's great that we could have you guys. I mean, we'd love to have you in person in the city as well, but
thanks for having us.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's been
Hi, Eileen.
The benefits of kind of like the remote, like being able to go to con. I said this year anyway that I was going to start going to cons, and then it became a lot easier when it was like a click away.
Yeah.
It's
like no one has to worry about the weather anymore. Oh yeah, it's a snowstorm, big deal. As long as the power doesn't go out, we can still have our reading, and people show up.
I feel like there are always snowstorms during the KGB. Wasn't there one last year? I forgot what month it was, but
I don't remember.
And then I remember going on the bus and train into the bar, and then I'm like, oh, no one's going to show up, and it was packed. It was crowded. Okay.
You just never know.
Yeah. So yeah, it's 7:05.
There will be art behind me, but actually, this is not my permanent spot. This is opposite from where I'm going to be when I get my desk. So it'll be another wall, the other direction. But
Yeah.
I'll put art up.
Carol, you said there was a monster storm last year. If you can remember, I don't remember what month that was.
No.
It was earlier in the year. Remember when the zombie apocalypse happened during KGB good times? Yeah. I mean, there was a period where like something weird would happen every week there.
Yeah. The giants would be stomping on the ceiling.
Right. Do you remember the
So
cheerleader?
is everyone that's tuning in now all regulars at the bar?
Some of them.
Could be. I mean,
that isn't. Eileen lives in Seattle.
Oh, right. Okay.
I don't know Allison. Allison, where are you from? Where's Allison?
yeah, everybody chime in where you're from so we can do a
I see
shout
many
out to your
people from
city or
here.
something. We'll see who wins the award for the furthest away.
Yeah,
from New
I don't
York.
know where Jane is from.
Mars.
Yeah, that would be cool. There'd be a little bit of a time delay, but that would be cool.
Yeah, a little bit.
People.
So yeah, it's about 7 after. If you're just tuning in, this is Fantastic Fiction at KGB. Tonight's guest,
Clog dancing has some our heads, yes.
Justin C. Key. Clog dancing. Yeah,
From Weehawken, New Jersey. I know that. Oh, Anna is from Queens.
L.A.
Oh, Allison's from LA. Okay.
Queens. Another L.A.
LA is a popular.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had my drink, and I don't think I better have more right now.
All right, Birmingham, Alabama. All
I had
right.
my Buffalo bison grass vodka.
Is that the same one that Dan always pours us?
Yes. I have two. I have a little bit of it left in a bottle. I have a whole bottle in the freezer. Those are the bottles I left in the fridge when I defrosted it, and I was worried that the heat would harm it, but it didn't.
So the bison grass, is it just a flavoring, or do they actually ferment it?
There's some kind of grass. I don't know. I mean, I have no idea. It's in Polish. I don't know what it says. about how
Is
it's
it
made.
Polish or Russian?
Polish.
Polish. Okay.
I mean, the brand.
There's Justin.
Hmm?
Someone saying specifically hello to Justin.
Oh yeah. I was waiting for the time to get in there, but hi Nicholas, hi Jelani. Thanks for coming.
Philly, St. Louis.
St. Louis, Philly, awesome.
Okay.
New Jersey. Well, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah. I mean, I'll get the bottom during the intermission to see it, but it's going to be in Polish, so it's not going to help.
Well, we might have some Polish speakers watching. They could.
That's possible. And they can say, well,
Made with.
All I have to do is go across. Like this neighborhood is a lot.
But my friend Conrad once got me the wrong one, a different grass, and it didn't taste as good. I mean, wheatgrass. I forget what it was, but that's not bison grass. That's the wrong one. It doesn't taste the same.
Hello, Boston. Hello, Gary from Boston.
Hello.
Hello.
hi. Hello. Christine Newlieb.
So yeah. So
Should we start?
yeah, I think we should start. All right. So welcome everybody. This is you're watching Fantastic Fiction at KGB. I'm Matthew Kressel. I co-host a series with Datlow. Tonight's guests are Priya Sharma and Justin C. Key. They're both going to read for you tonight, and then after the reading, we're going to do a Q&A with them. So please stick around for that. If you don't know about Fantastic Fiction at KGB, we are a monthly speculative fiction reading series held on the third Wednesday of every month, normally at the KGB Bar in Manhattan, and now we're doing it because of COVID times live on YouTube. The series was started in the late 90s by Terry Bisson and Alice K. Turner. They were attempting to bring together mainstream writers with writers of speculative fiction in order to show, in Alice Turner's words, that at a certain level they were plowing exactly the same field. We're mostly pretty much 99% speculative fiction now, but we do occasionally have people that are kind of cross-genre. In the spring of 2000, editor Ellen Datlow took over for Alice Turner. And August 2002, Gavin Grant, publisher of Small Beer Press, stepped in for Terry Bisson when Terry moved to California. And I stepped in for Gavin in April of 2008. Please check out our mailing list, kgbfantasticfiction.org. So I said this before, but I think it's important to just remind people, the KGB Bar itself is a Soviet-themed bar on the Lower East Side of Manhattan that used to serve as a speakeasy-style meeting place for Ukrainian socialists during the McCarthy period. Before the virus shut down, the bar was host to literary events most nights of the month. New York Times called it one of the best literary venues in New York City. In the 20 years of hosting Fantastic Fiction, the KGB Bar has never once charged a cover. We usually ask the audience to buy a drink, hard or soft, to support the bar. But since they're not open, we're asking viewers, if you can, to support the bar by sending, the price of a drink or whatever you want to give, if you can, through Fundly. And then the link's on the screen there. The owner promises to give the bartenders a percentage of that as well. The other thing we should also mention is that I was saying this before, is that, our series itself costs a little bit of money to run. We did a fundraiser like 3 years ago, and we're starting to run out. I think we have maybe a little less than a year left. So if you want to support us and keep the series going for longer.
Don't make us do another Kickstarter.
Yeah, please don't make us do another Kickstarter. You can, at the link below, there's a link where you can donate via PayPal if you want.
Thank you, Carol.
Yeah. So is this our 9th live stream or is this our 10th? I'm losing track.
I don't remember. I don't know.
Yeah, we've been doing a lot of these live streams, and it's great because this is great. But yeah, we started in March because we're able to get authors who might not have been able to come to New York City. So we're excited to have Priya, who's in England, and Justin, who's in LA, join us. very far away from each other in time zones, but with us tonight. So that's awesome. So like I said, our readers tonight are going to be Justin C. Key and Priya Sharma. Justin will read first, then Priya, and then we'll do a Q&A. So you guys think of some good questions to ask them afterward. So let's get into it. Let me get your bio up here, Justin. 1 second. Justin C. Key is a speculative fiction writer and psychiatrist. His stories have appeared or are forthcoming in the Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction, Strange Horizons, Tor.com, Escape Pod, and Crossed Genres. His novella, Spider King, will be released by Serial Box in early 2021. He's currently working on a near-future novel inspired by his medical training. He lives in Los Angeles. Here's Justin.
All right. Thank you all. Thank you for having me here. I'm excited to be here. It's always been a dream, when I was living in New York and going to KGB. I'm glad I'm able to do it remotely. So I'll be reading from two of my stories, and the first is a scene from The Perfection of Teresa Watkins, out now from Tor.com. As some background to the scene, Darius and Teresa are a Black married couple in near future, and when Teresa dies of cancer, Darius uses resurrection services to bring her back in a donor body from incarcerated volunteers. Only Teresa's donor body is a white woman. Darius' friends just planted doubt in his mind about the legitimacy of the whole thing. Teresa was in the shower when I got home. Jerry's ridiculous notion of trained, desperate inmates echoed loud enough to nearly push me into the bathroom. I needed to see her. Those eyes would calm me, but I resisted. I changed into shorts and a t-shirt and sat on the edge of the bed. A flash of light caught my eye. Teresa's phone lit with a notification from the bedside table. My fingernails bit my palms. My teeth ground until it hurt. Fuck you, Jerry, you goddamn asshole. I snatched up the phone. She had a text message. From who? I tried my name as the password, and when that failed, considered my name plus my birthday digits, then stopped. Too many attempts and the system would wipe itself. I began to put the phone back when I noticed what had been beneath it. A hardcover book sported a female prisoner with both hands reaching from behind bars under the title, The Crisis of Women in the U.S. Prison System. I touched the cover, wondered, and went back to the shower door. Faint whispers coated the sound of falling water. I waited and listened, trying to make sense of it. Was that weeping? The water trickled off. Any other sounds died with it. Curtains opening, the flap of loose cloth. I imagined her drying off. The door opened. Teresa started. Jesus, Darius. She turned to wipe the tears from her towel. Are you trying to win the Creepster Award? What happened? I said. You scared the shit out of me, that's what happened. She pushed past and sat on the bed. You were crying. I heard it. Teresa mouthed a curse. It's nothing, babe. Really. I don't want you to worry. Look, I got wine. We can play a game, watch a movie, quiz each other, whatever you like. Talk to me first. She dried her hair in silence and stared at an old picture of us on the dresser. She bit her lip as her eyes welled. I went to the wine and spirit store. I couldn't help but smile a little. Was that all? The blonde, middle-aged manager there had always been cold to us, as if we'd accidentally wandered into her high-class establishment while looking for a corner store to buy lottery scratch-off tickets. That woman will mess up a wet dream on a good day. What did she say to you? Teresa shook her head. Her face leaked tears. That's the thing. She was nice. Showed me the new wines they just got from Italy and everything, as if I belonged there. She never treated me like that when I was... She broke into sobs. I pulled her close. She smelled fresh, like she always did, out of the shower, but in a different way. She's an asshole, babe. Fuck her. It's not that. It's everything. I haven't even been back to the school to see my kids. We can go tomorrow then, I said. Get your job back. You'll teach. I'll code. It'll be like you never left. Don't you get it? I can't ever go back. Those girls looked up to me. Now all I'd be telling them is they can grow up to be a white woman. She shook her head as she turned to look at our picture. I never knew you hated my skin. Oh, what? Teresa, I didn't have a choice. I swear, it was either this or I just wanted you back. I'm sorry. You're right. Teresa fingered my collar. I'm scared is all. I keep thinking you'll fall out of love with me, this new me, and send me back. Teresa, I would never. We have our second chance. That's all that matters. She searched my eyes with hers. What lived behind those whites, now streaked with red? I kissed her to drive the thoughts away, to stop my lips from asking about the phone or the book or when she would start being my Teresa again. When she kissed back, our mouths filled with salt and pain and fear. We moved slow. Both of us were strangers to Teresa's skin. I married her mind. The rest of her was something else. Our bodies didn't mesh like they once had. I rammed her nose with my forehead as I positioned on top of her. She expelled me from inside her when she tried to squeeze me with her muscles. She burst into an infectious giggle in the middle of a kiss. I rolled to her side, laughing. We're like teenagers, she said. Moonlight through the window lit her face. Old, stiff teenagers. You gonna love what I got, girl, I joked as I slapped her ass. You ain't never had. At first, I thought I had slipped off the edge of the bed and was laughing even as the back of my head hit the wall, sparking stars. Laughter died. Teresa knelt on the bed, her salvaged eyes wide and twinkling even in the dark. Her hand danced with light as if encased with diamonds. I blinked and saw it was a sliver of moonlight on a long blade. I knew that reflection. I prayed to it almost every night during chemo before Teresa. Honey, baby, I said, what is this? She stayed perfectly still. Had her body taken the stance before? A threatened inmate in a maximum security prison? A different set of waves bouncing between her ears? How different? A voice asked. It sounded like Jerry's. I rose, careful to keep the moonlit blade in my sight. I'd let it sit atop the kitchen counter as a reminder of how low things had gotten, how far I'd come. When was the last time I'd seen it? I didn't remember it being so big. I inched forward. Teresa was a statue. When I was close enough, I touched her shoulder. Her body trembled. I suppressed my fight or flight instincts, a response I was particularly geared towards. My mind knew this was my wife, that I loved her, but it was having a hard time reconciling knowledge with perception. She tensed. For a terrible moment, I thought she was going to attack. Our second chance at happily ever after sliced down with the same dull blade from which Teresa had originally saved me. I responded by continuing forward. It's all I had to combat the urge to run. You're home, I said. You're safe. All at once, her fire went away. She fell into me, sobbing. Her arm was limp at my side. The cold flat of the blade touched my stomach. I thought about gently taking it from her, but decided against it. She continued to cry as we lay down on the bed, her body curved into mine. Her sobs carried her to sleep and finally silence. My arm numbed under her weight. My overextended neck had a painful crick, but I didn't move. It was another hour before I slid free and gently pulled the knife from her dreaming fingers. I crawled out of bed, went to the kitchen, and returned the blade to the holder's open slot. I vomited in the sink, and when my stomach had nothing left, popped a Xanax. I counted, meditated, traced the colored grooves in my remnant card as I waited for the benzo to do its job, and went back down the hall. Dark-bound whispers paused me at our bedroom door. I had heard these incoherent private mutterings before, after Teresa's cancer came back, and she decided to go off all her medications, including the antipsychotics. I pushed on the door to cause a creak. The whispering stopped. I let out my own. Teresa? Silence. Perhaps she was asleep. Perhaps I was the one hearing things. Climbed into bed, considered wrapping my arms around her, decided not to, and closed my eyes. I only want to know what happened, I said. What were you thinking? Why were you thinking it? Can we just not talk about it, please? The night had been strings of light sleep, broken by the same clinching thought. What the hell was I going to do with her? Her schizophrenia at its worst bore crippling paranoia, but never violence. Had this been from that? Or was that something deeper? Resurrection's policy was clear. Any psychiatric problems demanded reporting. But then what? To the state of New York, Teresa was property. The original Teresa was dead, and the donor inmate had essentially signed away her right to live. Until regulations on the rapidly evolving technology of neural computing arose, if Resurrection thought Teresa was a threat, their only obligation was to offer a refund. They'd get rid of her. I can't fix this if I don't know what the problem is. Some things don't need fixing, she said. I'm a coder. Everything needs fixing. That's hilarious. Have you tried stand-up? Do you think I want to hurt you? No, babe, it's not like that. You're hearing voices then. Is it her? Is it the donor? What? No. Then who? Silence. I heard you whispering to them last night. Teresa would tell me. She slammed her fist against the coffee table. I am Teresa. Okay, let's just calm down, I said, licking my lips. You came at me with a knife. A knife. I saw the prison book. Did you have some type of memory? A flashback, maybe, from the prison? She looked at me, and I knew. Damn it, I thought. What am I going to do with you? So that was from The Perfection of Teresa Watkins, which is available on Tor.com right now. Here we go. Now, the next piece that I'm going to be reading is from Spider King. It's a novella that will be out from Serial Box in Q1 2021, so in just a few months. And this is from the beginning. The burning itch of something foreign burrowing under Darnell's wrist came in the middle of his first job interview after being released from jail. He shifted in the undersized suit he'd bought from the thrift store the day before. The experimental medication had done little for his anxiety. This new sensation didn't help. Joy Butler, the general manager of Delaney Street Restaurant, sat on the other side of the old chipped wooden desk and asked him a basic question that sounded lifted from the same website Darnell had used to prepare. He had read that taking long, introspective pauses makes an applicant seem more thoughtful, trustworthy, and dependable. So he used the opportunity to look down at his wrist, where he had been absent-mindedly picking at a scab. A piece of too thick skin hung loose. The edges of the mottled flesh underneath quivered. The itch deepened. Darnell, he said, looking up. He smiled, off cue. Right, sorry. Darnell, I'd asked what you would do. I would first listen to the customer, see their perspective, and attempt to come up with a solution. If I'm unable to de-escalate the situation, I would find the manager, you, or another senior member of staff. Shit. Too verbatim. Joy sat back, considering him. Darnell considered himself too, but in a different way. The tip of his index finger rubbed his wrist. There was an obvious divot now. Around it, numb cold. He pressed into it. Something pressed back. How long have you been out? Joy said. 3 days. You move fast. That shows motivation. You heard about how we work here? Yes, he said. I've heard a lot. Given opportunities that people no one else will. Shit's dope. Heat filled his ears. I mean, she smiled, and for the first time, Darnell relaxed. You can be yourself. The customers come to see what you can become, not to feel like they're visiting a prison. She leaned in. Darnell resisted the strong urge to pull his arm to safe hiding. Everyone here knows what it's like to be locked up. From the bottom up. Even you? Especially me. But you're, She threw her head back in a laugh. Women can crime too, you know. They have whole prisons full of them. Call them women's prisons. Went away because I killed my husband. Oh, Darnell said. He looked back down at his wrist. Mistake. The skin moved. I'm just fucking with you. Drug charge. Her smile withered. You doing okay? I am. You clean? There was no judgment in the question. She understood what it meant not to be. He saw it in the thin skin beneath her eyes, the slight coat of grime on her teeth, even the frequency with which she shifted positions, a sign of her subconscious continuing to rebel against sobriety. I am. I got a second chance. I'm not messing with that. I'm just nervous. Don't be. You can start Monday. Darnell forgot about his wrist. Had he just heard her correctly? Delaney, with its full benefits, decent salary, and flexibility for parole and court dates, was at the top of a long list of potential jobs, a list Darnell had planned to venture far down. I'll take that look as an acceptance. Hell yes. Sorry. Yes. Any way I can start earlier? She waved her hand. I'll pay you through the weekend. Get whatever you need in order. I'd rather you rested and clear-headed. You got clothes? I'll be ready, ma'am. Don't call me ma'am. Boss lady? She smiled, which was a relief. Sure. When they were done with the paperwork, he asked her to show him to the bathroom. Darnell waited long enough for her heel clicks to disappear down the hall before slowly turning the lock. You got a job, you son of a bitch, he said to the mirror. At some point during his interview, he'd broken into a sweat. Joy likely still withheld judgment on Darnell's sobriety. This look wasn't helping, but he was clean, always had been, and he now had ample opportunity to combat any initial suspicions. And then he felt it, the pressure. Darnell inspected his wrist over the sink. The dried and curling flap of skin tittered. It reminded him of some unseen creature rummaging through an overturned garbage bin. For the moments before it revealed itself as a possum or a cat, it could be anything the imagination cared to conjure. Darnell pinched the dead skin and pulled. It came off without pain. He had uncovered what looked like a black and brown mole with rough, scalloped borders. Then, movement. Thistled lines bled from the center, erratic in their dance. Antenna? No, too many of them. Legs? They tasted the air. Darnell clamped his hand over his wrist and pressed it down onto the damp sink. Fuck, he said repeatedly. Fuck, fuck, fuck. His skin tightened with each utterance of the word. What was that? A parasite? That fucking jail. He took a deep breath and lifted his hand. A small bundle of legs sprang out of his skin. Darnell flung his arm hard enough to send a bolt of pain from shoulder to elbow. A black and brown dot scurried across the bathroom floor into one of the stalls. What the hell? But Darnell knew the what, if not the why or the how. A spider had just popped itself out of his goddamn wrist. He gave some attention to the divot left behind in his skin, dry, hard, and many shades darker than the healthy brown surrounding it. Beneath the stall door, a tiny pair of eyes caught and reflected the wan light. He vaguely remembered that spiders had many indistinguishable eyes. This standout pair, however, gave the spider a deep, curious look, as if it were trying to figure him out. Darnell left as fast as he could. Weed is legal now, you know, Casey said before licking the edge of the cigarette paper and neatly folding it over. He extracted a long, arduous puff from his vape pen as he finished. Casey was a delicate blunt roller. Darnell suspected he enjoyed the craft more than the high. They sat just outside his apartment building, inviting the world to see. Legal for them, Darnell said, not for us. Craig caught a drug charge just last week. For real? His cell was across from mine. He's up for 10 years. Must have been more than weed. They can still bust you for selling it. We got to make money somehow. Good luck getting hired with the record. Casey glanced at him, ashamed, but Darnell pretended like he hadn't heard. Casey didn't owe him anything, even if Darnell had taken the fall for him. I might have a job, Darnell said. You fucking with me? I'm not fucking with you. You heard of this place called Delaney Street? Casey jumped up, indicating that he'd very much heard of it. Yo, that place is legit. You get healthcare and everything. Casey brushed Darnell's shoulder. Look at you, all employed and shit. We hitting the club tonight? Bottle service? Slow down. I haven't gotten paid yet. But you're as good as paid? Live a little. Don't count it until it's in your hand. Your moms used to say that, right? Casey handed over the half-smoked blunt. You can count this, though. 3 puffs to celebrate. Darnell took it, looked at it. Just then, a black and white turned the corner and slowed. Casey took the blunt, pulled back on it, and let out a large cloud of smoke. The cop rolled to a stop at the corner. The headlights weren't on. You wildin', Darnell said. They can't do anything to us, Casey said. Still, they went inside. Casey lived on the 3rd floor of a walk-up with one of his boyfriends. The burn in Darnell's legs and throat reminded him that he hadn't exercised since before the arrest. The itch grew even still, demanding attention above all the rest. He fingered his wrist, the divot there, and thought of those curious alien eyes. You ever been bit? Darnell said as they entered the apartment. By a cop? No, fool. You know, by a spider or some shit. Have I ever had a spider bite? You sure you're not high? I think I got bit. Bad. Let me see. Casey examined the wound with unexpected care. Looks like an STD. On my wrist? I've seen freakier. Doesn't look like a bite, though. It hurt? Looks like it hurts. No, it's numb, actually. Yeah, go to the doctor. You can go to a doctor, right? Casey threw his jacket onto the love seat that was already buried under an assortment of clothes. He had never cared much about straightening up. He kept the place clean, at least, if not easily navigable. Casey scratched an area of the couch free of clothes, adding to the love seat's burden. Of course I can. I was released. I didn't escape. Sorry, I'm not up on the rules. Casey looked at him, curious. What? So, you fucked the judge or something? What kind of question is that? No parole meeting, no curfew, you didn't even see prison. You were found with a Glock and fentanyl, both yours, and I love you for it, but you already had the first 2 strikes. They should have sent you away. The prosecutor must have liked you, or didn't give a fuck, or what? Or you made a deal you don't want to tell me about. Casey was scrolling through his phone, but his eyes watched Darnell. You didn't sign up for one of them studies, did you? That's exactly what he'd done. I can't talk about it. Or what? Or they'll send me back. Casey feigned looking around. Who's going to hear you? Darnell shrugged. They said if I talked about the details, they'd know and I'd go back. And that's fucked up. They should have never passed that law. You don't even vote. Nigga, I know people who vote. My point stands. Who facing hard time wouldn't become a government guinea pig for freedom? I'm sorry, man. Don't be, Darnell said. They gave me some meds, that's it. Don't even have to take them anymore. He almost told him about the injection, but thought better of it. I just have to stay out of trouble for a year. Then I'm free for life. That is, unless you take me on another of your joy rides. They both saw it at the same time. The spider was thick-bodied, much more so than the usual spiny-legged dwarfs hiding in bathroom corners or clinging to starved webs on plastic houseplants. The spider stood rooted in the middle of the table. Darnell was once again struck by the unconscionable depth of its gaze. How long had it been there, waiting to be seen? Look at that little fucker, his friend said. Thick smoke filled the room. Casey slowly grabbed his sneaker and lifted it high. The spider didn't move. Darnell snatched the shoe from Casey's hand just as he was bringing it down. Casey stumbled onto the table. The spider jumped back an inch, straightened its 2 front legs, and slapped them against the wood. Casey rolled around, purple in the face. He reached for his shoe. Darnell pulled it away. Yo, what's good? Nothing, just... Darnell grabbed an empty red cup and upended it over the spider. Casey stared at him as he slid a magazine under the cup. Darnell opened the front door, went downstairs with his catch, and freed it onto the curb. The spider chittered about, disoriented, and then faced him. Shoo, Darnell said. Go on. To his surprise, the spider immediately obeyed. It scurried into the grass. Beyond, the black and white was still there, parked across the street, its headlights on. Casey was waiting for him inside, eyebrows raised in inquiry. Life is short, Darnell said. Okay, Captain Planet. I got to go, life being short and all. You trying to roll? Nah, I got stuff to do. Get ready for Monday. Oh, working ass Negro. You need clothes? I look like a cancer patient wearing your clothes. Better than a convict. Hey, man. Thank you. Stop. No, I mean it. I know we grew up with that snitches get stitches shit, but I never expected it. Every nigga on this block would have ratted me out in a heartbeat, but you, get out of here with that shit. No, for real. That's ride or die shit right there. And if you want me to love spiders, I will. I'll fuck the shit out of some spiders for you, man. Thank you. So that's from Spider King, which will be out in cereal box in a couple months.
Sounds great. Thank you.
That was superb.
Great readings.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So we're going to take a really short break, just 5 minutes, and then we'll be back with Priya Sharma. So please stick around.
Can I just say a quick hi? I can see Nimi is on the list there, and also Scott Edelman.
Yes.
Oh, yeah?
But that was fantastic.
I don't think Scott's here. Okay.
Yeah. All right. We'll be back in 5.
Hi there.
Hi. I just had a look outside. The snow's really coming down.
You just hang on. I want to look.
Yeah, we're in the Northeast U.S. here. If you're not in the Northeast, we're having a blizzard.
I can't see it snowing, but I can see snow on the ground. I'm 9 floors up, so.
Yeah, it's definitely blowing out there. So. If you want to get a copy of The Perfection of Teresa Watkins, you can go ahead and click that link there. And then Justin, you said that second reading was
In
coming
about
out with
a
Cereal
few
Box
months, I
next
think
month.
that, it's
And that's the beginning of it?
Few months. Okay.
yes, very, very beginning.
Cool. Okay. Wow.
Awesome.
And you're a brilliant reader as well, Justin.
Cool.
It's all the nerves. It's all the nerves. You know, I just.
No, I'm nervous, and I'm going to make.
You're good. You're good. You're good. And I'm sure you'll be fine, Priya. Are we ready to go? Okay.
Up to you.
Welcome to the second half of our KGB Fantastic Fiction and KGB reading. Over the next few months, we plan to have January 20th, 2021, Lauren Bucas and Uthman T. Malik. February 17th, Kathleen Jennings and Shweta Thakra. March 17th, 2021, Jeffrey Ford and Karen Warren. And April 21st, Nello Hapkinson, and we'll see where we go from there. And if we're live or in person or still virtual. In the meantime, please welcome Priya Sharma. She is a short story writer whose collection All the Fabulous Beasts won a British Fantasy Award and the Shirley Jackson Award. Her first novella, Ormeshadow from Tour, won a Shirley Jackson Award. When she's not writing, she works as a doctor in the UK. Please welcome Priya Sharma.
Hi, thanks very much for having me here. I'm a bit nervous after following Justin because he was fantastic. But anyway, this is a short story called Egg. Paula Garan asked me to write something for her collection Once Upon a Time, an original fairy tale. So that's what I'm going to read. It also appeared in my collection as well. It's called Egg. I consider my egg, its speckled pattern, its curves, strange weighting and remarkable calcium formation that's both delicate and robust. It hurts, but I'm determined. The old hag promised. I put my egg inside me. Hot water soothes my skin. It plasters my hair to my scalp and runs in rivulets down my back. I nurse the heavy feeling in my lower abdomen with my hand. Then comes a different sort of deluge. Blood trickles down my thigh, and water carries it away and down the drain. It's expected. I've already urinated on a stick this morning and it's pronounced me without child. Disappointment has joined agony and blood on the same day of each month. I drop my towel into the laundry basket and dress. There's a sparrow on the balustrade, a blighted bird, one of many breeds decimated by predators, harsh winters and pestilence. The public were outraged by the loss of blue tits and robins, but sparrows are too nondescript to feature on calendars and cards. Another joins it, then a third. The trio perform an aerobatic display, as if they don't already have my attention. A fourth, now a fifth. More, and they're a flock. I step onto the terrace, but they don't flee. They stay earthbound and hop around, leading me down the garden, down the steps to the lower garden, past the tennis courts to the fresh green avenue of limes, over the stile and across the fields to the crumbling farm buildings at the edge of my estate. The bar, the sparrows enter through a broken panel. The rusty hinges whine and creak as I pull the door open. The old hag lives on a bed of mouldy hay, twigs, moss, newspaper and woolen tufts. She squats rather than sits. Her irises are covered with a milky shroud, and she wears layers of white, each stained and torn like a demented virgin bride. A sparrow lands on her upturned hand. The hag brings it to her face and peers at it with opaque eyes, listening intently, as if to a song I can't hear, before it flies up to the beams above. We have an audience up there. Blackbirds, starlings, jays, sparrows, falcons, and a wide variety of owls jostle together for space, having set aside their differences. Who are you? That's a rude greeting for a guest. The hag's voice has a peculiar melody, rising and falling in the wrong places. Guest implies an invitation. I'm here at your request. I'm sick of you asking. Request? I've never seen you before, and I'll have you thrown off for trespassing. You've been hard to ignore. You're crying out with want. I want for nothing. Liar, the ache's consuming you. There's nothing you can give me. Not even motherhood. You can't give me that. Can't I? Then a sly smile crosses her face. You tried the usual ways. It didn't work. Perhaps you didn't try hard enough. I have, not lacking in partners and willing potential fathers. I have fibroids and severe endometriosis. I sound bitter. My pelvis contains a tangled mess of lumps and adherences that render my reproductive tract defunct. I'm still outraged by my body's betrayal. It's failed in its most basic of female functions. Can't the quacks help? What do you think? My specialist had stressed that my conditions were benign, but I couldn't see the benevolence in what caused me so much pain and robbed me of a child. My own salvaged eggs, fertilised and implanted, failed to take as if they'd fallen on stony ground. Adoption? I shake my head. The hag must be able to see with those white eyes. She counts something on her fingers, and calculation done says, I'll help you, but there'll be pain. Childbirth? I ask hopefully. Much worse. Children drag you down and break your heart. No, I refute a jaundiced view of parenthood. They lift you up and give you love. That's just a survival trick of the young and vulnerable. The hag talks over me. You'll love them and it'll kill you when they don't need you anymore. I'm strong. I'll take that pain. There'll be sacrifice. Your dreams will be subject to their needs. I've already achieved all I wanted to and more. Except for this. Such success for one so young, but everyone looks at you as if you're unnatural. Not having a child is the price you paid for a man's ambition. This rankles. I'm every inch a woman. Of course you are, she tries to soothe me. But I just want you to think this through. Children demand everything, even your name, and you'll be mother first and last. And I'll be glad of it, and I'll pay whatever it takes. I have the means. Oh, you will? Never fear. There's also the thorny issue of expectation. You must love her for who she is, not who you want her to be. She, I'm already enamoured of the notion. A daughter. What will she cost me? We'll negotiate later. I don't do business that way. I won't ask for anything you can't give me. It's a reckless trade, and I consider the depths of my desire. How? The hag shifts on a nest, reaches under and pulls something out. She offers it to me in a scrawny reptilian hand. I take the egg. It's warm. She leans over me. May I be godmother? Is that part of the payment? No, she sniffs down and hurt. I just thought it would be nice. No child of mine will be baptised. Then I want to laugh. I'm clutching an oversized egg, having accepted help from a mad squatter, and I'm rejecting religion as a fiction. That's probably wise, all things considered. Now this is what you must do. I consider my egg. Its speckled pattern, its curves, strange weightings and remarkable calcium formation that's both delicate and robust. More conundrums are hidden within. Viscous birth fluids designed to be consumed. The yolk, rich in unfulfilled life. It hurts, but I'm determined. I put my egg inside me. Its tip nestles into my cervix. Not for 9 months. That would be ridiculous. Just long enough for my trembling DNA, bearing extinction, to permeate the shell and scramble the genes within. Once retrieved, I hold it up to the light, but I can't see the outline of a child. Egg and I embark on a course of antenatal education. I read a Machiavelli and Chomsky. I play Debussy and Chopin. We watch French films and listen to Cantonese language tapes. An egg will be more equipped for life than I. Then finally, Here she comes. The shell cracks, the tiny life thumping its way out. Fragments come away, tethered by membrane. I pick up my featherless chick, who's pink from her labours. It is a girl, goose pimple skin as if plucked. I rub her and swaddle her in a warm towel. Her ribs are exquisite curves. Her nails are minuscule and pliable. Small for her age, little chick. The hag's right. She said I'd have a mammalian response. My breasts engorge and leak. Chick's mouth puckers as she tries to plunder nourishment, but she can't latch on. I prepare formula milk in a flap, fearing she'll starve. It dribbles down her chin as if it were poisonous to keep it in. I sit through the night, exhausted, waiting for the flood of love, the tugs of blood that will sustain me while she cries with hunger, but nothing comes. Chick has dark, bulbous eyes. Her hands are drawn up before her, like useless appendages. I cry as I hold her, this culmination of all my wishes, and I know that she's not right. I go back to the hag. You lied. I'm not so astute. I've been duped. You wanted a child, and I gave you one. She peers into the bundle of blankets in my arms as if to see if Chick is a child after all. What's her name? Eloise. The hag makes a non-committal noise. She's not. I struggle with the word normal. Life's a lottery, she shrugs. You can't swap her. I can't bring up a child like this. One that requires sacrifice. The clouded corneas don't conceal the mockery in her eyes. I can't stand her crowing, and I won't concede defeat to a mad old crone, but something makes me swallow my indignation. Help me, I hold Chick up. She won't feed. The hag beckons me over with a curled talon. There's nothing for it. I cradle Chick in one arm and dig with my free hand. My manicured nails break. Earth clogs my diamond rings. I hate worms. Eyeless, skinless, boneless, they itch on the ground. My excavation brings one up. It writhes in protest, clamped between my thumb and forefinger. The longer I look at it, the harder it becomes. Chick's screams have faded to a mule. She's fatiguing without food. I put the worm in my mouth. Then I'm sick. I find another, this time gagging as it flails against my palate. I manage to keep it in despite the spasms of my throat. I chew. I put my mouth to Chick's and drop the masticated mess in, and her eyes brighten with excitement. She all but sings. More, 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 please, mummy, more. Chick gulps it down, her mouth open straight away in readiness for the next portion. And she won't be tricked by anything mashed up with a fork. It must be from my lips. I search for the bugs sheltering between the stones of the garden walls, for earthworms hiding in the flower beds. I hug by torchlight for slugs that brave the paths by night. I retch and vomit. My little gannet's insatiable. So where was your daughter born? Abroad. The new paediatrician seemed satisfied with the answer. And how old is she? 7. And she doesn't talk at all? No. Toilet trained? Can't you have read and records before you called us in? I want to snap at him. But I've resolved to be less prickly. He's here to help, allegedly. No. Chick trembles as I undress her. The doctor measures her height, weight, and her head circumference, and then plots the poor development on a chart as if it wasn't self-evident. I see that no one's been able to identify Eloise as having any particular syndrome. He flicks through a file. No, but don't say it too loud because I haven't told her yet. That makes him look at me. Chick, defined diagnosis has been reduced to a list of problems in her medical records. Poor growth, mental retardation, microcephaly. Pop Eloise on your knee. Chick doesn't like to be held, even by me, but faced with a stranger, she tries to hide her head under my arm. The doctor runs his hand around her ribcage with a hollow depression at the centre of her chest. Eloise is more than pigeon tested. Come and see. Chick's chest x-ray reveals the white lines of her ribs sheltering the shadow of her heart and the dark hollows of her lungs beneath. Look at this. At what? It's a furuncle. Pardon? Here, he points with his pen. The clavicles are fused together. They should be attached to either side of a sternum. In English, please. She has a wishbone. Perhaps you should make a wish. Then he looks at Chick, who's hiding under his desk, and flushes. I make up a porridge of oats, seeds, and rice milk. Chick still gorges on worms, but I've coaxed her into other things, although there's still an exhausting list of what gives her diarrhea, tummy pain, and hives. Chick plays around my feet. Play is an exaggeration. She's not interested in toys, not alphabet bricks, not the puzzles in bright plastic that are waiting to be solved, or a menagerie of stuffed toy animals. She wanders unoccupied, then comes to stand beside me when she needs reassurance. The tongue clicks when she wants my attention. Click, click, click. I hear the sound in my sleep. Chick doesn't like cuddles. Once I thought she was trying to kiss me. I leant down, eager to receive it, and got a mouthful of chewed spider instead. Her attempts at affection. She never looks at me directly, and sometimes I want to shake her and shout just to make her meet my gaze. I spoon the porridge into a small mouth, setting its receding jaw. Chick's face is narrow, her eyes large, ears low, and her nose beaked. People find nothing endearing there. They either look away or simply stare. I used to think, Eloise will never be a businesswoman, a scientist or a pilot. She'll never paint or write. She'll never be friend, lover, wife or mother. Now I think, Eloise will never feed herself. She'll never take herself to the toilet or dress herself. She'll always be at the mercy of others. She'll always need me. I try and imagine this life stretching out ahead of us. I'll wring the hag's neck if I ever see her again. I'll wipe Chick's face and hands, sponge porridge from her hair, and she hops around once freed from a chair. Click, click, click. The foil strip crackles as I pop out a tablet. I swallow down my daily dose of synthetic happiness with coffee, sweetened with synthetic sugar. Click, click, click. Chick's vocal this morning. She bumps against my legs. Her clicks have risen to a series of chirps. She hunches her shoulders and bobs her head. I turn away. Chick's fed, watered, her nappy clean. I've met her needs. I wonder what it'd be like if I walked out. Nannies never last longer than an afternoon. Eloise gets too upset without you. She just sits and cries. It's not fair on her. I imagine myself walking down the street, the luxury of going into a cafe to drink coffee and read a book. Click, click, click. Even though I folded back the kitchen's huge glass doors, there's no breeze to ease the stifling heat. Click, 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 click. I could be picking out a dress and deciding where to go for dinner and with whom. Chick's clicks have become a sudden high-pitched squeal. I turn to see her cowering in the corner, a cat crouched before her. Scratch marks across Chick's face. Blood wells up where the claws scored her skin. The cat bats at her again with its paw. This hunter must have crept in while my back was turned. I shout and it looks over its shoulder, annoyed at being interrupted. It's a big, sleek tom, all black with white whiskers. I shout again, and it turns and stands its ground, back arched, spitting and hissing, unwilling to relinquish Chick. Her eyes bulge with fear, and her mouth hangs open. Blood-stained drool drips from her chin. Chick's hurt cuts through my shock. I pick up a pan and fly at the cat, hissing back. I'm almost on it, screeching and stamping when the cat decides I'm too much for it to take on. Its paws scramble on the tile floor for purchase as it flees between the legs of the kitchen table and chairs. I pick up quivering Chick. Blood stains my dress. The worst thing's the sound, the shapeless keening. How could you let this happen to me? The hag was right. It hurts. At 12, Chick has a young child's body. There's no signs of puberty, and in truth, I'm glad that I don't have to deal with her having periods as well as everything else. She is changing, though. Chick's acting strangely. Social services would have a field day if they could see her. I've delayed her hospital appointment for fear that someone might examine her and see. She's taken to climbing onto worktops, bookcases and tables. She leaps and lands with a heavy thud, lying on the floor looking stunned. Her bruises are a spectacular range of colours, which never fail to make me wince. I'm exhausted from the constant vigilance supervising her requires. And that's not all. She stopped eating, just like she did as a baby, as though sickening for something. I've tried bugs and worms again, but she won't take them from me. She's listless. She won't splash around in a shallow bath, and she doesn't click her tongue or follow me. I undress her for bed. She's lost more weight. I remember holding her in my hands when she was born, and I resolved to take her to the doctor in the morning, regardless of all the bruises. But that's not everything. There's a skin. I slip her nightdress on and over the ugly, thick hairs on her back that are so tough that they take pruning shears to cut through them. The cotton slips down to cover the fine down on her belly. I lock the door and lie beside her on the mattress that I've put on the floor. It's the safest way in case she gets up at night. There's nothing left in here for her to climb. I'm woken intermittently by Chick, who spends her sleep in motion. Her arms twitch and she wakes with a jerk as if falling, followed by a dialogue of clicks as if she's telling me her dreams. The grey light of morning comes in. There's a sound at the window like a pebble being thrown by some Lothario below. I once had a lover who did such things, imagining himself a romantic. Oh, the memory of sex. Chick used to get too upset if someone spent the night, or even an hour while she slept. Afterwards, she'd shy away from me as if I was tainted by a scent that ablutions couldn't remove. The noise comes again, a series of short, sharp raps. A pecking on the glass that chills my skin. Something wanting to be let in. I part the curtains. A shadow flutters against the pane. Its wings a blur. Not a ghost, but a sparrow. The hag's back. I listen to Chick's ragged breathing, and I want to have it out with the old bitch. I put a coat on over my pyjamas and pull on boots. I put a sweater on Chick and swaddle her in a quilt. She's featherweight when I pick her up. Her eyes flutter and then open, and she looks through me with dead eyes before she closes them. The barn's cold. I can see the shape of my breath. The hag's nest has been reduced by time to a rotting pile that reeks. The hag doesn't seem concerned. It's her throne. I want a word with you. You cheated me. The hag hasn't aged where I feel the weight of the last 12 years. She still wears a riot of once white rags. She's unique, isn't she? The hag clucks and coos like a proud parent. You can't remake her in your own image. She's herself entirely, and that's children for you. Chick's awake now, alert. She wiggles, wanting to be put down. Eloise, the hag calls. She only answers to Chick. The hag smiles at that. Chick, come here. And I hate that Chick goes to her without hesitation. She'll do nicely. For what? Our bargain. You don't want her. I'll take her back as payment. No. Don't tell me you've never thought of smothering her with a pillow or drowning her in the bath. I can't deny it. The hag's fingers roam over Chick. She's fair payment. She has what my other fledglings don't. A wishbone. I've been wishing on it for years, I laugh. It's useless. The hag's quick as a whip. Chick's across her knees, squirming and crying to be set free. Wishbones must be broken if wishes are to work. Chick's cry rises as the hag presses on a collarbone. Stop! Really? I suppose you're right. Wishing shouldn't be an impulsive thing, and it's strongest when the bones are clean. A boiler in a barrel. Don't look put out, I'll be a sport. You can pull one end. That's a 50-50 chance on the greatest wish ever made. And Chick's hands and feet will make the finest divining bones. No. No? Yeah, the hag cocks her head on one side. You could wish for a child. One that runs to you, arms out when you call. Let her go. I see, you want it for yourself. Snap it and you could have a whole brood to comfort you in your dotage. Will hold your hand on your deathbed and bear your genes into the future. Children to praise your name and make you proud. I said let her go. Nothing of hers will be broken. Really? You're hurting my daughter. I climb onto the nest. But you don't want her. She holds Chick out of reach. I do. Every inch of it is mine. I paid in pain and sacrifice. Then why are you here? Because you made her pay too, and she's suffering and you can stop it. I can't make Chick different. That doesn't matter. I wouldn't tamper with a single cell of her. I don't know what she's sickening for, and you do. I can't tell you what she needs. The hag's stroking Chick now, quieting her. Do you know? The hag's white eyes stare through me. She's waiting. I look at Chick. And here it is, mother's intuition, 12 years too late. Yes, I know. When the hag stands, she's 8 feet tall. Most of her length is in her spindly legs. She looks less haggard now. She leans down and passes Chick to me, then shakes herself out. The white tassels look like ruffled feathers. There's a sudden soft gloss about her. Up here. I follow the hag up the rickety steps to the hayloft. She stoops to fit. A hole in the roof reveals clouds racing overhead. The birds have gathered up here, a panoply of breeds to bear witness to the glory of this morning. I can feel every thudding heartbeat. Here it is, the biggest sacrifice. There really is no end of hurt. I pull off Chick's jumper and nightdress, her nappy. Her feathers have come in overnight. I'd be restless too if I had pinions pushing through my skin. Soft plumes cover her abdomen. The shoulder blades peel away from her back and unfold. Her wingspan is mighty considering she's so slight. No wonder Chick's clumsy on the ground. She's designed for flight. Click, click, click. Chick leaps up, her feet curling like claws around my forearm. I hold her up. She's heavy held like this. Click, click, click. I'm fixed by my daughter's gaze. She's ferocious, dignified. I bow my head. She doesn't need my limited definitions. She has her own possibilities and perfections. Click, click, click. I launch my precious girl, and she takes flight through the hole in the roof, going where I can't follow. She tilts and tips until she catches the wind and spirals upwards, a shadow in the sky. How high she soars. Thank you. Thanks for listening.
That was wonderful.
Thank you.
Great. No, that was really great. It's been an honor to be here with you.
Oh my God, likewise, Justin. Absolute pleasure to meet you, and I'll certainly be looking for your work again and your readings because you're great at it.
And we both coincidentally had like animal-related things. So it's like,
Yeah. So anyone who has a question, go for it, and we'll post it here. In the meantime, I have a question for both of you. How has your medical training informed your writing? Does it ever get in the way of your creativity?
Do you want to go first,
You
Justin?
I'll go. I don't know if I want to, but I'll go. But I remember, so grew up reading Michael Crichton, right? And I remember um, that he, that published when he was in medical school. So as I was going through medical school, I was like, all right, are you doing as well as he is? But the point of it, in that one of his memoirs, I think, Travels, he was saying that one of the things that the points when he realized that he couldn't do both was then when he was interviewing a patient or talking to a patient, and his mind went to, this would make a good character in a story, and he was like, would he want? Was that fair to the patient? So I've kept that in mind, and I've also kept that in mind in terms of like letting my experience going through medical school and now being more, my past has led me to psychiatry. So it's less broad than it was back there. But in terms of, separating what it is that I do as work from what goes into my fiction, in that sense of making sure that my overall experience informs what I put on the page in terms of from a responsibility standpoint, knowing that those experiences are going to inform the type of things that I talk that I write about, and like first story I read, Perfection of Teresa Watkins, dealing with somebody who has like schizophrenia, and knowing from my experience that what people dealing with that face, and kind of the kind of societal battles that they have to go against, and being aware of that and acknowledging that and honoring that on the page, but also at the same time, when I'm with my patients, making sure that I'm there fully as like as Dr. Justin Key, and not like as in a voyeuristic sense, So I like to keep those separate in that sense, though, what me as a writer and my experiences, that's naturally going to be there. I'm naturally going to have like being kind of involved in medicine, being involved in psychiatry, kind of having that knowledge of what's going on in society from that standpoint. And it really does kind of inform in terms of like ideas, et cetera, et cetera. But I do like to push back against, for myself, if that thought ever arises, which it doesn't really too often, because I've trained that, like in that space while I was a patient, like if it's like, oh, this is make an interesting story, no, I quell that, and then that comes later, in a different setting, so that I can, in both ways, be responsible and be true to, in one setting, my patients, and then in the other setting, like the people who read this and the people who might look to this and say, what I want them to say is, I feel heard in this. The second story I read, like I had like a better reader say, like I felt heard in terms of like with my anxiety and panic attacks and things like that. And that's what I want to do. That's what I want to invoke. So short answer to that would be, I feel like it gives me a greater sense of responsibility, like in terms of like, I have knowledge in this, let me do good and not do harm. No harm. There we go.
What about you, Priya?
I'd certainly agree with that. Obviously, both Justin and I took an oath, and confidentiality is a huge part of what we do. Respect for people's stories, and obviously that's a trust we can never ever break unless we want to be. I certainly, I don't want to be in front of the GMC, the General Medical Council, explaining that. So yeah, we respect people's privacy and confidentiality, absolutely. But I think I think both. I mean, I'm a GP, and obviously you're a psychiatrist. But I think for both of us, we're very closely involved in people's stories, and that's a very privileged position. But I think I'm always first and foremost, as a GP, interested in people's stories, because obviously that informs how you deliver medicine. If you don't understand the story and where people are coming from and what their own belief system is and what we're suggesting for them, how that affects them. So I think always wanting to know the story is a big part of it. And I think that easily carries into fiction when you're thinking, what is this person's story? What what is their motivation, darling? But in terms of thinking about where characters are coming from and why, and also just observing life. We're in that privileged position of being up and close against people's lives all the time, and even just little tiny things, little tiny observations of life are crucial. And in terms of work, I think that's really important. I mean, I don't have any problems sort of separating the two, but I agree about responsibility, and I think particularly for psychiatry, where mental illness has been both sensationalized and vilified, and I've got very strong feelings about how people who are outside the system are presented. So I think having a responsibility to do that accurately is really important. And being advocates for the way that is presented is crucial, I think.
I want to have a jumping off point with something you said, Justin. Mental illness is sometimes portrayed badly in fiction. Do you have any advice for writers on writing about mental illness, or books or films that you think handle this well?
One of the things I would recommend in terms of entering any space where that isn't your lived experience, and even if that is your lived experience, I think that there's different phases of writing. There's the exploratory phase, there's revising, like finding out what it is really about. The important part is opening it up, and like in a safe space, like seeing getting other people's eyes on that, and getting perspectives to make sure that your own biases and your own assumptions that you're bringing to the table, how do they manifest on the page, and do they manifest in potentially negative ways, and I think that can be a way to kind of go about that, versus because I could say some of the things that are common tropes, like in terms of people with mental illness being more prone to violence, when in reality they're more likely to be victims of violence. So being aware of some of those things, and not only if you're starting off from where your perspective is from broader from media, and kind of some of the stereotypes in culture, it's you could be perpetuating things that are harmful to people, and it could be a sensitive thing. But if you approach it from something in terms of like, I want to bring this perspective to light, or like tell this person's story from their perspective, as opposed to like, oh, it would be cool to have somebody who hears voices, recognizing what lens you're coming from, I think is very important. There was, I'm gonna mention it later. I'm probably gonna cheat and use Google while I'm doing this, but I remember there was a series or book written by somebody, a protagonist with borderline personality disorder, written by somebody who has that as a lived experience. And I thought it was really, and that because of those traits, like this person was recruited to be part of like kind of like a superhero type society, because and I felt that it was really powerful in taking things that could sometimes colloquially be seen as maybe negative characteristics, and turning those into positive while still recognizing that they were hard for the main character. Really quick off the top of my head, I remember, I think the most recent interpretation of The Invisible Man. I think the movie that came out recently, I remember watching it during the pandemic. I thought that did really well in terms of like somebody who went through trauma, and in terms of the effect of trauma and that anxiety that comes with being a victim of trauma. I thought that movie did that really well, while like also still being like this slasher horror. I thought that did that actually really well. But let me see if I can find that So yeah, I can give credit to that author that I thought did that really well.
Have you seen The Babadook, Justin?
I have not heard of it, but have.
Just in terms of, have you seen it, Ellen?
Yeah, and I have the pop-up book.
In terms of a woman who's sort of traumatized and depressed and living with a son who's very, very challenging.
It actually reminds me of your story.
Yeah, also a good horror. Yeah, I enjoyed that. I thought it was really good.
Speaking of horror, how has the pandemic affected your creative output? And like, have you changed your behaviors or patterns to adapt?
Yes.
I think I've been coping with the pandemic by, when I'm not at work, having lists. I've been driven to sort of list making behaviour, which has been, a bit of a list maker anyway. But I think having tasks, and I think having writing tasks and deadlines actually has been pretty good for me. In that, I've been able to, it's been a bit of an escape really for me. And I don't really write. I mean, I don't know about you, Justin, but I can't see myself at the moment writing a COVID-based story. I'm still living through it. I think we're all still living through it. And I think it's going to take a while to process that.
Right.
In terms of, I don't tend to, I've been quite fortunate in the projects that I've kind of worked on this year, without any spoilers, but they kind of give me a completely different ones. And I can't say too much, but a horror story based around a painting. Another one's kind of a bit of a spin-off of a horror that I wrote based on an island. It's kind of a sister story. So having different things that are completely different focus has been quite good for me, actually. Don't know about you, Justin.
So it's been I think a bittersweet year for me. I think that incidentally with 2020 and COVID, it's been a very difficult year, like overall. And I think that I was on the way to having some successes in writing this year. And I think that it's been at times difficult to kind of keep up with that during COVID. I have 3 children, 6, 5, those 5 years old, those 2 boys, and a daughter who's 3 months old. So as you may know, them being at home, and then also continuing with my psychiatry residency. I'm thankful to be at a point in my training where all of it is outpatient work, so I've been able to do a lot of it remotely. But just having I think the day be filled, with not only taking care of my children, taking care of family, taking care of patients, and then also having to deal with all this myself, And I think that writing for me has been, and it's always has been, but especially now, both therapeutic, but also something that I have to kind of give myself some grace with, in terms of, I think when this first started, and there was a lot of memes going around, and I identify with that, letting myself know, okay, just because everybody's home now doesn't mean you need to finish your novel or spend all your free time writing or do this or this or that, and being kind of aware of that, so that when I did write, I felt good about it, and when I didn't, if there was a week or two where I didn't, it's okay, I'm surviving in all these other ways. In terms of how it's affected my writing, I think what I read from Spider King was written largely during this time. I think I wrote it in the spring of this year, so right around that time when we were at home. I don't know if it was a good, I think, escape from COVID. I have written a COVID story, which is basically kind of like a futuristic, what is the result of where we are right now, and I think that was in some ways dealing with kind of my own, anxieties about kind of where this going. what's going to be kind of the end result. What is a future where, this may not go that well, but it's still, we adapt to it, and how do we cope to it, and what stories still come out of that. And I think that they may end up being just for me, or that might end up being out in the world. I'm not sure yet, but that was the only one that's kind of incorporated that. Otherwise, right now it's like, all right, COVID's over here, let's explore these other topics and try to kind of to not let that consume my mind too much.
Matt, how about you? How has it affected you in your writing?
So there were a couple stories that I had to stop working on because I think they went into a really dark place, and the world, like my everyday experience was dark enough. So I had to put them aside. But I think kind of like what Justin said in the sense of like having a routine was really important for me, like having stuff to do every day. Because of COVID and various situations changing with, day-to-day stuff that we have to do. Like my wife works for the school system, and they keep opening and closing the schools, and then remote. So it was like my daily schedule was constantly shifting. So I think, as a creative person, that's hard because for me anyway, I need to have that routine of doing it. But I find that when I'm working, it's good for me psychologically. Like I forget about all the stuff that I'm worrying about, and then I get really focused on the work. So it's just important for me to have something to do and be creative and constantly working on that. So we have a question from Gay Terry for you guys. Gay asks, so when you read other writers, do you find yourself analyzing their mental state?
No. It's also kind of my work, and I enjoy my work, but my work as a psychiatrist is to do that, that is part of it. I try to think of it as more than that in terms of aligning with patients, like being as much as I can a part of their story and kind of working with them and walking with them. But that is part of the work, and it's rewarding, but like any other work, it can be draining. And I think that if I wasn't able to kind of turn that off, like if, the same thing with like when I leave the clinic, like everything that, my friends, my wife, my kids say, I can't have it from the perspective of like, how would I type this up in like in a medical record? So in the same light, when reading, I don't find myself saying, okay, what does this say about the person's psyche? I may find myself in terms of as a reader, like wondering what this says about the person's perspective in the world. And I don't think that that's from my background as a psychiatrist, but that's just the background as a person, in terms of, what might the author be trying to say, if they're trying to say something. But, I wouldn't necessarily want somebody to, try to kind of make analysis all with me, and, in terms of the things that I write, in the same way that you look at The Perfection of Teresa Watkins, the main character in there is going to be very different from the main character in Spider King. And I don't think necessarily either one of them, like if you analyze them, is going to give you much insight into who Justin is. It might be insight into how I understand the world. But I think that comes from just being a reader.
Priya, do you analyze other
It's a great question, and I love Justin's answer because I agree completely with that. I think when you're immersed in a book anyway, I think you're there for the ride, and with great writing, you don't see the author, you see the story all the time. And if I'm analysing anything, maybe I'm analysing what they're doing as a writer, you know, either be it language or style or dialogue or structure or whatever. But yeah, no, you know, in the same way, I don't think we write to have a face, do we? We kind of, you might see us, you know, you might see how we see the world in a very filtered, strange way. But yeah, no, I don't want anyone looking at me as a person, particularly when I'm writing. And I don't look at other authors in that. You know, I mean, when we read a lot of horror, what does it say about, you know, all our mates who are writing horror? You know, they're not, you know.
Yeah, no, as a reader, I don't assume that the narrator is related to the author. You know,
Absolutely.
No, definitely not.
You know,
that would be horrible. I mean, unless it's you know, a fictionalized autobiography, that's different.
Right.
Yeah, if I ever release a story where the main character's name is Jordan and they grew up in DC and they're psychiatrists, then maybe you could be like, all right, maybe he's talking about himself.
Well, Jeffrey Ford does a lot of these stories where he's a character in his story and he mentions his wife, and it's like they just all this like fantastical stuff happens to them. It's completely like bonkers and gonzo, and it's yeah. He's
I don't know how much is true and how much isn't. You know, did he ever say?
well, you know that's Jeff, right? So who knows? But like there was one of them where what was it the I can never pronounce it, the Annals of Elin Oak or something like that. Yeah, and like it's a great story. People would email him or contact him, and it's like, oh, is this a real thing? Because he starts off like this historical document.
Little creatures.
Yeah,
Like mayflies, they have a whole life in a day. It's like it's a fairy.
and Rick Bowes does that too, where he
uses
fictionalizes life. Yeah, he fictionalizes his life, and to the point where it's like I'm not sure what actually happened and what didn't.
Yeah.
I can't remember who said it, but I think maybe it was someone like Anne Patchett, but she said, I got to a point where I realised I was writing the same story over and over again, and do we all tell those same stories that we carry with us? Are we repeating our stories over and over again in different forms? I thought that was quite interesting.
So yeah, I mean that's a good question. I mean, do you find certain themes repeating in your work often?
Let me think. I do think that I think that there's a main thing that of mine that finds itself into my work a lot. I'd have to sit down and look at all of them to see. And for me, you know, I think that going through the work that I do, whether it's as a medical provider or as a writer, some of it is trying to, you know, make amends in a way that I can't for like the past. So for example, like a big part of my story, if you know me, is that I lost my cousin to violence when he was 25 and I was 17. So I do see, you know, I see him or the likeness of him pop up a lot in my stories. Mm-hmm. And just in terms of like to either give him new life or to, you know, change what happened to him, or to kind of like, you know, bring somebody like him's story to places where, you know, he might have not otherwise been able to go. You know, and it was in one hand in the coffin that I, you know, had from Strange Horizons earlier this year, and I hear his voice when I was, you know, reading Spider King earlier today, in terms of going through that carceral system itself. So that's something that I feel like, you know, and I definitely have a trunk novel where he was, you know, he was like one of the, you know, definitely a strong side character. So I think that there's a better way to name what that theme may be, but I do see that aspect of my life and my story as being like something that kind of comes back. And I'm overall happy for it in terms of like what different ways can I kind of make, you know, somebody, you know, his existence known in some way, even if people don't know it, even if people don't realize it.
So Priya, do you have any?
I mean, I kind of worry that I return to family a lot. and sort of past family traumas. And it's funny because I try and escape that, and it just comes back again and again and again, really. So it's funny, but I think, you know, I've kind of, even my sort of, my work this year, I've tried to sort of consciously move away from that, but I can't. I don't know why. Well, and I'm so worried I write the same story over and over again.
Well, I mean, you know, as a writer, I find that, you know, and a reader, that I find that, you know, when the author is emotionally invested in it, when they have, you can feel it, you know, you can feel it. And if there's a story that you really, really need to tell, that it just keeps coming up and again, it's, you know, it's reflective in the work. And, you know, when someone's faking it, you can tell. I think you can tell.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I think definitely emotional honesty on some level. And I know we were talking, Gates Harry was mentioning about analysing other people's mental state, and then we got on to, you know, kind of not seeing the writer and actually looking at the work. But I do think we do reveal ourselves, whether we mean to or not. And those little bits of truth, no matter how much we hide them, are what makes our work valuable and believable. You know, the emotional hook. I mean, your cousin Justin, you know, and what you kind of write about him, obviously that's something really close to your heart and really important to you. And I'm sure readers will have a real sense of that as they read your work.
So please get your questions in now, because we're getting close to the end of the show. So if you have any questions that you want to ask Justin or Priya, please get them in now. Do you guys have any questions for each other?
What are you working on next, Justin?
Let's see. What am I working on right now? I am working on a horror story that deals with, and this is another thing that I think comes into it, just based on being, you know, African American in today's society. We're working on the horror of not being seen, or not being heard as being Black in America, and it manifests in a piece of art that kind of puts that onto the people who view that art. So the horror is somebody who, for example, one of them, there's a few things that happen, but one of them slowly becoming more invisible in society. So working on that right now, on and off during this pandemic, and I have a few things coming out next year, with, you know, in FNSF, in Escape Pod. Some just came out from Interstellar Flight magazine. Also working on with Codwell Turnbull with a few projects. So, you know, I'm excited about that. Right back at you. What are you working on?
I'm in that horrible stage of being between projects, and I think the next thing I've kind of got a novella to write over the next 12 months, and I'm just sort of at that stage where I'm sort of pushing ideas around, because I've got a couple of things that I could do, and one of them's actually around food, and the others around possibly around a sort of alternate sort of Greek myth type thing. But I'm at that stage where everything's quite ill-formed. I don't know about you, but you know, when you kind of trying to get up to the top of the hill so you can see and get a good view of what you're doing, and I'm just not quite there yet. I'm kind of I've lost my focus quite a lot actually with the run up to Christmas. But hopefully, I mean, I've got 12 months to do it, so hopefully I'll be able to pull that together, you know. And I've got a few things I can't really talk about as yet because they've not actually been announced. But hopefully, you know, a couple of things that have really cheered me up this year that will be coming out. SNFS, that's brilliant. That's superb.
Yeah, thank you. You know, it's I think I'll be in the last issue edited by Finlay, so excited about that. And also the Don't Touch That parenting, science fiction, and fantasy anthology. I'll be in that sometime in this year. So excited about that. I have a novel that's been gnawing at my brains, like, hey, remember me? You need to return to me. That I'm like, 2021 is going to be the year for that, but I'm excited about these other things I've been able to work on, and trying to have grace with myself in terms of like, okay, you haven't done the novel, but it's fine. You're still doing other things, and I'm mostly been just joyous to be able to be more immersed, I think, in the writing community, doing things like this, being in areas like this. It's been really kind of an honor, to be honest.
I found the writing community so welcoming and so warm, both in the UK and the US. In India, people have been really supportive. In Spain as well. Yeah, people that I've met have just been great. Writers are the best. Horror writers are even better than the best. I love them.
Yeah,
horror writers are great, I have to say.
Yeah.
So Justin, I just want to say you're getting a lot of love for your beard in the comments.
Is it new? I think you're new.
Mimi Mondal says, I just want to say, Justin, I really appreciate the new authorly look with the serious beard action and everything. And then
new.
And then says, I don't know Justin at all, but objectively, that's a magnificent beard. And then Christine Newlieb says, Magisterial. So, yes, a lot of beard love on the comments.
And someone was asking to see Jack. Here, Allison, here's Jack. Here's one of my kitties.
Jack the jerk. There he goes.
He has a couch to lie next to me. He has to sit on my lap.
So just a reminder that you can get Ormeshadow here at the link below or your favorite bookstore. Check out Priya Sharma's work if you haven't already. And you can get The Perfection of Teresa Watkins here. This is a link below with Amazon or Google and your favorite bookstore. Well, unless there are any more questions from our viewers or you guys for each other, I think I just want to say thank you. You guys were really fantastic. Great readings. It was really enjoyable having you. I'm glad that we could have you from England and LA, and I'm really glad that everyone was able to join us from around the country and the world. So yeah, this was great. Thank you so much, guys.
Yes, it's been really great.
Thanks for having me. And lovely to meet Justin as well.
Yeah, no, same. Thank you, Ellen and Matthew, for having
You're very welcome. It's been hopefully we'll have you in person sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, once this is all over, we should have you come to New York. It's it'll be a great day when we're able to all do that again. So thank you very much to our viewers for watching, and our supporters and everyone, and to our readers, Priya Sharma and Justin C. Key. Check out their work. This has been Fantastic Fiction at KGB. So Justin and Priya, just hang on. We're gonna still hang on, but we're gonna end the live broadcast. So everybody, have a good night, and happy holidays, happy Hanukkah, happy New Year, Merry Christmas, and yeah. So we'll see you in 2021.
Yes, and I'll be a year older.
Yes, and happy early birthday, Ellen. Okay, guys. Good night.
Good night.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.